prevail. So we'll get this started. The City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas will meet in a regular meeting virtually through Zoom on Tuesday, January 26, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Invocation, if you would please bow your heads with me. Dear Lord, thank you for this gathering tonight. We ask that you watch over the participants of this meeting and guide us in the duties that have been given us to lead the way for our city to become a much better place. We ask that you watch over those who are sick tonight, and especially for those who have lost loved ones that are in connection with this city. We do ask that you watch over. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Y'all will stand to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
which it
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call. Place, let's see, Mr. Yalls. Present. Ms. Evans.
Unmute.
Rita, are you with us?
Present. Can you hear me?
I got you now. Thank you,
Okay.
Rita. Ms. Mullins
Mullins present.
and Ms. Rankin.
Rankin here.
All right, we do have a quorum. To my knowledge, we do not have any citizen comments tonight. At least we did not have any as of 5 minutes ago, so if that's changed, if the city secretary let me know, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Given no change to that, then we'll start with the consent agenda. Item 1A, all matters listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider approving the following reports: city manager report, November financials, previous meeting minutes, animal control, fire department, permits, inspections and code enforcement, police, dispatch and court report, street and park maintenance repairs. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I'd like for the record to reflect that we do not have any reports from the Economic Development Corporation.
That'll be fine. Any further discussion? Vote, I'll just do a roll call on the votes. Mr. Yall?
Yalls, yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
And Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Old business, item 2A, discuss and/or take option to adopt ordinance number 2021-002, amending chapter 90 of the animal control of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinance. Here. Apologize for that. I'll read the ordinance. Ordinance number 2021-002, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending Chapter 90 of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. City Manager, do you have some discussion on this? Well, let me get a motion first. If I could have a motion, please.
Make a motion to discuss or take action on ordinance number O-2021-002, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending Chapter 90 of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
Have a second.
Second.
All right. Mr. City Manager, would you have a discussion on this?
As a result of previous workshops to discuss language and provisions of several ordinances, we have 4 ordinances tonight, proposals to make changes to 4 separate ordinances. The first, Mayor, just related to dealing with animal control. The changes suggested deal with section 9001, which is to define what a fence is, and to identify that any underground or invisible fence shall not be considered a primary object of confinement, however may be utilized as secondary containment. Section 90.08 is limiting households to no more than, and that's households, not residents, to no more than 4 adult dogs and 1 litter of puppies. And section 90.08 limits households, not persons, to no more than 4 adult cats and 1 litter of kittens. It also eliminates and deletes in its entirety section 90.04, subsection D, miscellaneous provisions, deleted the dangerous animals section because in the ordinance, we actually define dangerous animals, and dangerous animals are not prohibited from being owned in the city. There are just very specific conditions in which someone can possess an animal that's been declared as dangerous. So there was a conflict. They were prohibited when another section of our ordinance allowed them to be possessed, but just had to follow strict conditions for ownership. So those were the substantive changes to Chapter 90 of the city ordinance, Chapter 90, dealing with animal control.
I appreciate that. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none. Mr. Gauss, how do you vote?
Gauss votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
I vote yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item 2B. Discuss and or take action to adopt ordinance number 2021-003, amending chapter 150, the building regulations of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances. Ordinance number 2021-003, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending chapter 150, building regulations of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss or take action on ordinance number O-2021-003, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending Chapter 150, building regulations of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. City Manager, you want to touch base on this one?
In Chapter 150, 2 items that were addressed and suggested to be changed. One was just the same definition that we just discussed in the animal control section 90, where defining an underground or invisible fence shall not be considered a primary object of confinement, however, may be utilized as secondary containment, just changing the language in ordinance chapter 150. And then section 150.080, adding subsection C, which is giving the plumbing official the authority to enforce occupancy or someone to leave occupancy of a house that's been deemed to be uninhabitable due to the lack of water being supplied at the residence. Previously, we did not have a section that gave the building official the authority to order people to vacate the premises.
I have a motion, please.
We have a motion.
Oh, we already have a motion on the table. I'm sorry. Any discussion from council? All right, Mr. Yawls, how do you vote?
Yawls votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
I vote yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Motion carries. Item 2C, discuss and or take action to adopt ordinance number O 2021-004, amending chapter 154 of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances. Number 4. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending chapter 154 of this Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. City Manager?
Okay, chapter 154 regulates the use of signs in the city. Section 154.05, adding to the language that any sign located in a public right-of-way or within 10 feet of any road edge may be immediately removed by a building official without notice. In some areas of the city, there is no right-of-way established, and it's unable to determine what the right-of-way may be. So this just adds consistency for signage that no signs in the city can be placed within 10 feet of any road edge. And that just clarifies that to where we don't have to necessarily know what the right-of-way is. It's just no sign can be within 10 feet of any road edge. Section 154.0.37 is the same issue, but deals with freestanding signs. That the same right-of-way less than 10 feet, at least 10 feet from any road edge. It clarifies the distance any sign shall be from any road edge in the city. Section 154.38, permitted signs, adding to the bottom of our current section. In the event construction activities do not require a permit, posting of construction signs are restricted to 14 days. There is some construction that takes place that does not require a permit, such as painting, for example, or drywall texturing. So by not having a permit, we still will regulate the use of those construction signs to no more than 14 days at any given job site. Section 154.39 deals with signs in the right-of-way. It's the same as just mentioned. It just defines that no sign shall be within 10 feet of any road edge.
Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss and or take action for ordinance number O-2021-004, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending chapter 154 signs of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
May I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Yawls, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Motion carries. Item 2D, discuss and or take action to adopt ordinance number O 2021-005, amending chapter 156, section 156.035, single family detached residential districts, R-6A, B, C, and D of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances. Ordinance number O 2021-005, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending chapter 156 of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. I have a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to discuss and or take action for ordinance number O-2021-005, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending chapter 156 of the Gun Barrel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. City Manager?
In this ordinance, it deals with section 156.0335 permitted uses, deleted in its entirety the language that motorhomes not less than 50 feet in length, 10 feet in width in size be eliminated from that section. That's in conflict with our provision that they be HUD approved. I believe that the size requirement for that is less than 50 feet by 10 feet. So it eliminates the conflict.
Discussion from council?
I believe you said motor homes. This is mobile homes.
Mobile homes. Did I say motor homes?
You
I'm
did.
sorry, I meant mobile homes.
Just for the record.
Thank you, Ann. Any other comment? Mr. Yaws, how do you vote?
Yaws votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Okay. Item 2E, discuss and/or take action to adopt ordinance number 2021-008, amending chapter 156, section 156.084, 085, 087, and 089 of the Gumbel City Code of Ordinances. Ordinance number 2021-008, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gumbel City, Texas, amending chapter 156 of the Gumbel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss and/or take action on ordinance number O-2021-008, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gumbel City, Texas, amending chapter 156 of the Gumbel City Code of Ordinances, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
And may I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. City Manager?
In discussing the project, the Lodge project that is currently slated to begin construction on the south side of 334 off of Dunaway, there's a provision in our ordinances that for sections 156, 084, 085, 087, and 089 that requires projects, churches, funeral homes, and mortuaries, hospitals and clinics, nursing and convalescent homes to have ingress and egress from arterial highways in the city. The problem we have in Gumbel City is we do not have any arterial highways. We have, other than the 3 state routes, State Route 175, State Route 334, and State Route 198. The site plan was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation to the City Council. The City Council approved the site plan with the developer, but under current conditions, it can't be built because we don't have an arterial highway in the city as designated. Our Gumbel City Thoroughfare Plan defines arterial roadways as streets that provide a high degree of mobility, service relatively high traffic volumes, have high operational speeds, and service a significant portion of through travel or long distance trips. Arterial roadways service primary routes through the Gumbel City area and between major destinations within the area. It's clearly evident that we don't have any of those. So without removing the ingress and egress requirement of arterial access, we can have none of these projects built within our city unless they build right off of a state highway. And I think what's really important in these projects is that they meet the national fire protection codes and that they meet adequate fire life safety concerns, which I think in this case, they clearly do. We've gone out and evaluated, in this specific case, Dunaway, which is 36 feet wide, which is as wide as any street in the city. We had conversations with our city attorney regarding the provisions and requirements of this ordinance. And I think we came to the consensus that the requirements of the ingress and egress from arterial roadways is physically impossible. Maybe not impossible, but highly improbable, and creates a huge hardship for any developer to have to design and develop their own arterial roadway just to build a project that meets the special use requirements, as I listed earlier, of churches, funeral homes, mortuaries, hospitals, clinics, nursing and convalescent homes. And one of the things that stood out to me in coming up with this is we have an emergency room in our city that doesn't meet these requirements. It was built relatively short time ago. We just had to have recently in the last year and a half, the entrance to that facility from Municipal Drive had to be widened just to accommodate emergency vehicles. And that's a facility that normally takes emergency patients daily. So we don't even meet that criteria with new projects that have been developed in the city. I think it's a huge hardship. I don't know how we get around not eliminating that provision other than going to the Board of Adjustment to ask for a variance. But the accommodations cannot be met. So the recommendation is to eliminate that requirement of ingress and egress being from arterial roadways to provide for future development opportunities in the city.
Thank you, sir. I believe we have Mr. Joe Cruz and/or Mr. David Williams that wanted to speak on this item. Are y'all available?
Yes, sir. This is David Williams. Mayor and council, thank you for considering this item tonight. This project was started, we know the property was purchased by Dr. Sheila for this purpose, and we developed it. We know we're providing good access. As Mr. Onswald pointed out, there's only, on your thoroughfare plan, there's only two streets, and that's 198 and 334 that are designated as thoroughfares. And for these uses, whether it's a nursing home or a mortuary or a church, the only place they could go would be on those two highways. And I don't know that prime highway frontage is the highest and best use for some of these. We think this is a great project. It would be beneficial to Gun Barrel City. And we're here to answer any questions y'all may have or concerns.
Thank you. Council, do you have any discussion?
There's a comment I wanted to ask of our city manager. We could possibly amend this to just allow for these buildings to be on 36-foot roadways versus arterials, could we not? So therefore, we're keeping a wider roadway entrance in and out?
We could, and when you look at the minimum requirements for arterial highways in our thoroughfare plan, this roadway meets those minimum width requirements.
Right.
We went out and measured that, even though it could not be designated as an arterial highway by definition because it doesn't meet the needs of an arterial highway. The construction design is adequate if it went through and went somewhere. If width is the concern, ingress and egress, getting emergency equipment to the facility, it would have to be no bigger than what it is. It would just have to continue to maybe a destination or go through. The roadway is wide enough as far as the design characteristics of the road itself. It just does not meet the characteristics necessary to be designated as an arterial highway.
Well, I was just thinking that if we have any future buildings of this nature that come in and want to build, it seems to me these all do require a wide access.
They do. Most of that is addressed by the National Fire Code.
Is it?
The National Fire Code regulates the width of, especially a nursing home, a convalescent home, a clinic, a hospital. They have to meet certain design requirements to allow for emergency vehicle access. And in this case, they will meet those International Fire Code requirements for their driveways and access to their properties. So there is actually a international standard that applies.
Okay, well, I just wondered if we needed to keep that in our ordinance or not.
I would like to add to, I agree with Ms. Rankin that it would be helpful to have a roadway width established, because I don't believe that the fire code would apply outside of the property line to the street and going further. And As the mayor mentioned, we had an issue with our emergency room that the roadway that served it was inadequate. And I think if the width had been established, that it would not have been inadequate. The only further thing I would want to add to this is that modifying this ordinance is not for a particular project. It's for the city in general, and this is something that has needed changing for a long time, but it's not for any one project.
Correct.
And if I could add to that, this ordinance was passed over 40 years ago. And so there hasn't been a lot of development in these areas in the last 40 years. So I think Ms. Mullins is absolutely correct that, we need to keep up with current needs for the city. And she's absolutely right. It's not for one project. It came to our attention because of this specific project. And I think it is important that we don't build a hospital off a 12-foot or 24-foot wide road, that the ingress should be adequate width-wise. And I think in this case, it clearly is wide enough.
Thank you. Any further comment from council?
So do we need to modify or amend the motion for the 36-foot?
If that's what council wants to do.
I didn't make the motion.
Mr. Yalls, do you want to amend your motion?
I want to make sure I understand why. So based on the way the motion's written right now, we would not be required to make the road 36 foot. What would we make it instead of 36 foot?
It was taking away the requirement altogether and leaving it up to the fire code.
And as I'm understanding it, we don't want to leave it up to the fire code. We'd rather make it a mandatory 36 foot or greater.
I would like to ask the city manager about that. Is that going to be adequate for?
Well, I think in our case, 36 feet is wider or as wide as any road in the city. It's wide enough for 3 vehicles to be abreast of one another. It is wide enough if the other characteristics were in place to be considered an arterial roadway. I don't know that 36 feet is the number. I think you could get away with something less than that, 26, 28 foot. I don't really think you need to look at our thoroughfare plan and see what numbers we have established for minimum for connector roads. But I think it's important that we don't just leave it arbitrarily up to interpretation and you build. I think Ms. Mullins is very correct that we don't want to have a 20-foot wide road. There should be some minimal standard. In this case, it meets that, fortunately. But I think we could have very easily insert language that requires at least the access to that private property, which is controlled once it becomes private by the International Fire Code, but it doesn't control our roadways. So
should we amend it to include a minimum as you're describing?
I think so.
Sounds like we have 3 possibilities on the table.
Yeah.
Should we possibly table this and reconsider it next meeting?
There's one reason I would say we might not want to, so the lodge could move forward.
Oh, gotcha.
And I think we could easily amend that in the next council meeting to just come up with a number.
Okay.
Eliminate the ingress and egress from arterial and then add at a next meeting what we believe, and we can do some research and have some discussion as to what we think that number might be, and then just add those numbers to the existing ordinances.
So leave the motion as is and then come back next month and after doing some research and then put the limit on it.
Yeah, clean it up then.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Does that work for you, Ms. Mullins and Ms. Rankin?
Yes.
Yes.
The one thing I do want to point out, though, is that if I'm not mistaken from what I heard tonight, their entrance and their roadway is 36 feet.
Yes, it is.
So I don't know how that would play into your decisions.
Any further discussion? Mr. Williams, did you have anything you wanted to add, sir?
No, sir, I don't think so.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll leave the original motion as is, hearing nothing to the contrary. Mr. Yalls, how do you vote?
Yalls votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
The city secretary would place this on the February agenda for us to revisit. I'd appreciate it. Hope we don't lose it. Item 3A, discuss and/or take action to adopt ordinance number 2021-001, calling a general election for May 1, 2021 to elect the following position: Council Place 1, which is east, Council Place 3, which is west, and Council Place 5 at large to 2-year terms each. Ordinance number 2021-001, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gunbarrel City, Texas, calling a general election for the election of 3 city council members to 2-year terms each for May 2021 and establishing procedures for such general election. Is there any discussion?
Make a motion to discuss and or take action for ordinance number O-2021-001, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gunbarrel City, Texas, calling a general election for the election of 3 city council members to 2-year terms each for May 1, 2021, and establishing procedures for such general election.
Thank you, Mr. Yawls. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Yawls, how do you vote?
Yawes votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Evans, yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item 3B, discuss and/or take action to award bids for the 2021 street materials. Mr. City Manager? Hello, Jeff. Jeff, are you on mute?
Jeff, you went off mute and then right back on.
Now I'm on.
There you go.
Technology is challenging for me sometimes. The council members were provided with the tabulation of bids for our road construction materials, street materials. The bids were opened and compiled last week, and we have provided our recommendations for the following: hot mix and asphalt installed, 117.25 per ton. Advanced paving, they're not only the cheapest, but we have really good customer service with them, have a really good relationship. Hot mix asphalt delivered. RK Hall, the cheapest bid of 125.60 per ton. They're the cheapest and also have really good customer service with them. Cold mix delivered, 85.60. RK Hall, they were the only person that submitted a bid for that. We have really good customer service experience. Base rock delivered, we had 3 bids. S&S Trucking, they're not the cheapest. They're not that much more expensive, about $1 per ton, but the last 2 years have really good customer service with them. And there's a 37 cent per ton difference, not worth changing vendors. Really appreciate and like the work that they provide. Pea gravel delivered, 1910 per ton. S&S Trucking, the cheapest, and we have good customer service with them. Good experience. Wash sand delivered. Would like to go with S&S Trucking just because they're the only bid and we keep the same trucking company. We have a really good relationship with them. And then the last one, chip seal installed, $50 per square foot. Barnum Asphalt, they've done a lot of work in the city. They're really accommodating. Not only are they the cheapest, but we have a really good relationship with them as a company. So those are the recommendations as a result of the sealed bid process and compilation of bids.
Jeff, would you take a look at the wash sand?
Excuse me, Ms. Rankin. May I have a motion, please?
Do we have an ordinance number for this motion? There's not one on the screen.
No, there's not an ordinance for this.
Okay, so just make a motion to discuss and or take action to award bids for street improvement materials. Am I reading it right?
2021.
For 2021 street materials. Thank you.
As proposed by city.
Yes, as proposed by city manager.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Go ahead, Ms. Rankin. I'm sorry to interrupt.
On as he went through the list and he got to the wash sand delivered, Our document shows that King Sand and Gravel was awarded the bid.
They were the only ones that provided a price. However, we have received and gotten wash sand from S&S Trucking at a competitive price with the King Sand and Gravel. I don't see a price, and that's one thing I'll have to apologize. I did not address that with our street superintendent regarding why he wants to continue with S&S Trucking, other than the fact that we're going to use them for several other commodities. And it's sometimes just easier dealing with the same company. They may deliver a mixed load to the city versus going out and getting, we cannot very easily not vote on that one. And I can come, get some follow-up as what the price is. I just, according to the street superintendent, he'd like to stay with that same company and the price is competitive, the notes I have.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Yawns, how do you vote?
Yawns votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item 3C, discuss and/or take action to interview applicants for Council Place 3 in open session and consider making an appointment with a term ending on May 2021. Council, we will do this as we have done in the more recent times. I will ask the applicant to introduce themselves and then open it up for you to ask them questions. I will do that in the order that we received their applications. And once we have heard from all three applicants, then I will ask for a nomination. And the first person that's nominated and seconded and receives 3 votes will be the person that we seat. Is there any concern over that?
Well, we need a motion for this, Mr. Mayor.
We will need a motion after we hear the interviews, Mr. Yawns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Merritt, are you available? Brandy Merritt?
am.
Hi. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was good. Take a few minutes and introduce yourself to the council and open it up for council to ask you questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me this evening. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. My name is Brandy. My husband and I bought our first home in Gun Barrel about 15 years ago, and we've been permanent residents since 2011. I'm a librarian, and I also teach reading and writing and algebra at Navarro College. I'm a dedicated community volunteer, including a Girl Scout leader. I'm currently the second of the EDC, and I'm on the C. And I'm just really interested in this position, so thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up for questions from council.
Ms. Merritt, since the time that you've joined in, by the way, this is Richard. From the time you've joined us with the EDC board, what kind of takeaways, learnings have you gleaned from that experience? I know that was a new thing for you. What are some things you would share with us that you've learned since you've been a part of that board?
It was a really eye-opening experience. I had no economic development experience when I was asked to join. And so I was just thrown in and have learned so much about how the city works, how new businesses come in, how important it is because we have no property tax. So I have just been, I was kind of like surprised. I don't know why I didn't know that. So the importance of bringing in and retaining businesses has been what I've gotten most out of this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I've got a few. Ms. Merritt, how would you characterize your relationship with the current EDC Executive Director?
I think we have very good relationship. I have a lot of respect for Ms. Cooper, and I trust Ms. Cooper, and I trust the people who hired her. I think she's leading us in a very good direction. As a certified economic developer, I think she has more knowledge and more experience than you. And so I think it's important for us to trust her.
Thank you. And the next question I have, what would you hope to accomplish with your time on council? Why are you applying for this position?
I chose to apply for this position because I have a heart for community service. One doesn't go into librarianship or teaching for the money or the fame or because one has an ego. One does it because you love people, you love serving the community, and you love making a difference. So yeah, that's just ingrained in who I am as a person. Also, I firmly believe, and was raised with this, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been truly blessed. And giving back is just something that I feel really strongly about and really passionate about. What I hope to accomplish, I think that working towards building an infrastructure that actually supports our growth is going to be one of the most important things that that a council can do together. And having been on the CPAC committee, I now see how important that really is.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, which would be your priorities? Because would it be streets, fire department, police department, parks? If you were on council, which would you have as a priority that you wanted to see enhanced, I guess?
Police would be my primary priority. And it's also, I've taken a look at the budget. It's obviously the biggest budget item. So it's obviously a priority for all of you as well. And the online survey results from the CPAC has been like my Bible for the past few months. And safety was one of the biggest concerns about the community. And so from you guys, from myself, and from the people who have spoken on the survey, I think that would be without a doubt, my biggest priority.
Okay, thank you. Council, anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Meredith. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Gary LaRue, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Sir. Mr. LaRue, if you would give us a few minutes to introduce yourself, and then I'll ask council to ask questions.
My name's Gary LaRue. I've been in the Cedar Creek Lake area since about 2004. Unfortunately, I have not lived within Gun Barrel City until recently. Most recently in June of 2020, I moved into Gun Barrel City, and I've always respected Gun Barrel. It's sort of the hub of the whole lake area. And I've always wished I could have been part of Gun Barrel. So now that I'm here, I'm very eager to become part of what's going on in the city. I'm retired right now. I retired from EDS, Electronic Data Systems, after 29 years. I served in various capacities within the corporation. While living in Plano at that time, I served on the board of directors of the Maurice Barnett Geriatric Wellness Center for 5 years, and I was chairman of the board for 3 of those 5 years.
Thank you. Council, do you have questions for Mr. LaRue?
Mr. LaRue, am I correct that you are also a builder and familiar with planning and zoning?
In my past, I have been part of zoning committees where I grew up in Pennsylvania. I currently am, I guess you would call me a flipper. So I have bought various properties and I have fixed those up. So I have been involved in construction.
Okay. And have you ever had to be familiarized with the Open Meetings Act? Or
yes, actually I am. There's training provided by the state of Texas on the Opens Meeting Act. And I've gone through that training and I've actually submitted my completion certificate to Janet.
Thank you. Good to know.
Mr. LaRue, this is Richard Goss. I'm going to steal a page out of our mayor's questions a moment ago. What would be your priorities if you were to come on to the council? What would you think would be, or what do you believe would be your top priorities once you got here if you were to join?
Well, one of the things that Brandy mentioned, I totally agree with, and that's safety. I think the council really should focus on the safety of its citizens. And I've traveled up and down Welsh Road quite a bit. And what I've noticed is there's a lot of pedestrian traffic on that particular roadway, and the road does really not accommodate that. So I think it would be roads and the safety of our citizens, and that, along with the Welsh Road, would probably be 2 areas that we should take a harder look at.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. LaRue, I just have the one, which is, if you were to be seated on council, you've already stated that you believe safety is your top priority, or that the citizens is top priority, but is there any other specific item that you haven't mentioned yet that you would like to see that you could get accomplished?
Yes, I obviously believe that Gun Barrel City, the whole area, is a resort community. And as a result of that, the citizens can really benefit if the city focuses on enabling the resort area. So Big Chief's Landing comes to mind. It looks like that is such a huge opportunity to further improve the city from a resort area, which in turn will affect and benefit the citizens of Gun Barrel City. So I would look for ways that we could engage in growing the city from that respect, and then being able to support and enhance the lives of the citizens.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Thank you, Mr. LaRue. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Joe Lawrence. Lawrence, are you available?
I am. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Take a few minutes and introduce yourself. I think most of us know you, but go ahead and introduce yourself to the citizens.
Okay, I am the current board president of the EDC. I've been there a couple of years. I am retired. I've lived out here for about 3 years. Always been active in the communities I've lived in, volunteer in several different capacities, and just want to see this area continue to grow and continue to be a great place to live.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions, Mr. Lawrence?
Mr. Lawrence, this is Richard Goss. And again, I'm going to stick to my guns on the last question. What priorities would you bring with you to the council if you were to be seated?
Well, I totally agree with the previous 2 candidate comments. Safety is a real priority. Streets are a priority. Quality of life in general, that's going to encompass parks, streets, safety, et cetera. I'm a firm believer in the need for strengthening our police force, our fire department, things like that. I'm an advocate of the tax. I hope that we do get that, support that. And we have a lot of areas that we can improve on. It's just going to take some time, but safety and quality of life really are my priorities.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Lawrence, I'll ask you the same that I asked the other. You mentioned a few things, but is there anything else in particular that you hope to accomplish if you were appointed to the position?
I would want to be an honest, unbiased part of the team. I believe I'm willing to listen. I believe I'm willing to consider all aspects of an argument or different sides. I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. I do believe that everything should work together for the common good, but as Ms. Mullins mentioned, there's some ordinances that are outdated that need to be updated. There's some new things to consider. Social media is changing our world, and I'd like to be a part of that change as good constructive change.
Thank you. And how would you characterize your relationship with the current EDC director? This kind of give me an idea of how well you would work with the city manager.
Ms. Cooper and I have a good professional relationship. We don't always see eye to eye. I'm willing to listen. We've made many compromises over the years, her year here, and I'm willing to listen to both sides of any argument or any discussion. I firmly believe she is very capable, very educated. I believe strongly in her professionalism, and I believe that she knows what she's doing, what she's talking about, and has the interest of the city in as her main interest. I believe she can do a lot of good for the city.
Thank you. Council, do you have any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council, I'll accept nominations.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to enter a nomination for Gary LaRue for the position, unexpired term of place 3.
I have a
Second.
nomination and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Yalls, how do you vote?
House votes yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Mullins,
Yes.
and Ms. Rankin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Welcome aboard, Mr. LaRue. We'll swear you in on the February regular meeting. So, and we'll
Thank
be
you so much. I really appreciate your support.
Thank you. And we will be in touch with you between now and then. Although you've already done your Open Meetings Act, so I think we're probably good, but we'll touch base with you. Thank you very much, sir. And I do appreciate the other candidates for applying. We always thank the people who are willing to volunteer their time to help the city. So thank y'all very much. Let's move on to item 4, planning and zoning. Open a public hearing for a request from April Petty, requesting a special use permit to be able to perform permanent makeup at April Petty Salon and Spa located at 1918 West Main Street, Gun City, a general business district B2 zoned area. I may have a motion, or excuse me, this is a public hearing. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak?
Would you like, I don't know, did y'all want me to say something about it or do y'all have any questions?
You can use this time, or we can have you when we actually vote on it, either way. So if you want to go ahead.
I'll just tell you a little bit about it in case you don't know what. It's permanent makeup, means like the microblading for your eyebrows, lip lining, eyeliner. It's just another service because we have all kinds of services already here. We have lash extensions, highlights, perms, haircuts. It's just putting another service out here for our citizens and our clients, something that will benefit, putting it all under one roof and making it more, convenient to everybody.
Thank you. And we'll come back to you at the, when we have, open up the item to be voted on. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Public hearing is now closed. We'll move on to 4B, discuss and/or take action to adopt ordinance O-2021-007, granting a special use permit to April Petty to be able to perform permanent makeup at April Petty Salon and Spa located at 1918 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, a general business district B2 zoned area. Let me find the ordinance. It's a lot easier when it's on the screen. Ordinance number O-2021-007, an ordinance of the city of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map as heretofore amended to grant a change in zoning to general business district B2, subject to a special use permit to perform permanent makeup, cosmetic tattooing at 1918 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Henderson County, Texas, providing special conditions, providing a severability clause, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a penalty of a fine not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, and providing an effective date. Do I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I make a motion to discuss and/or take action for ordinance number O-2021-007, an ordinance of the city of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map and hereto amend to grant a change in zoning to general business district B2, subject to a special use permit to perform permanent makeup, cosmetic tattooing at 1918 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Henderson County, Texas, providing special conditions, providing a severability clause, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a penalty of fine not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to ask Ms. Petty some questions. Is that permitted?
Absolutely.
Ms. Petty, this is for you. So for this type of, I'm searching for the right word to use, for this type of practice, are there permits required and specialized training that a person goes through or takes part in to take on this skill set?
Yes. Our massage therapist right now, our licensed massage therapist, has just recently went through and got certified for the microblading, the permanent makeup, eyeliner, and lip liner. Then we will, once we get the approval from y'all, we will go through, I believe it's the Department of Health, and we will get the license they will actually come out and inspect us and give us the license so that it's actually the license to be able to do the permanent makeup. And so, yeah, we have to do that before we can actually get started. So this is our first step, and then our next step would, after we get approval from the city, then we can go further and get the license.
I don't want to put you on the spot, so if you don't know the answer to this, it's okay. I just would like to know approximately how long does it take for a person to get this certification? Like how many hours of training, or how much training is it?
I don't know exact hours. You do have to be either a licensed cosmetologist or a licensed massage therapist to even go and be certified. I know it took our girl, she had to take a week off of work of everything just to go it was like 5 days in a row of classes to get certified.
Thank you, Ms. Petty.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions or concerns? Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Giles votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes. Evans, yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item C, public hearing for request to replat lots 1 through 3, part of lots 66, 27, and 28, AB 483B Metros, Sir, heading being 1.8 acres belonging to Parks Home Construction LLC, physically located at 1319 Main Street, into one lot, Lot 1. May I have a motion, please? Oh, excuse me, another public hearing. Public hearing is now open. I believe Ms. Parks or Mr. Gilmore may be here to speak. If you are, go ahead.
I think we're both here. It was just a formality to get all of those lots made into one big lot so that we could create a plan that was aesthetically pleasing to everyone and that would put together, a design that would benefit the city as well as any buyers.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Item 4D, discuss and or take action to approve the replatting of lots 1 through 3, part of lot 66, 27, and 28 in the AB 483B Metro Serve being 1.8 acres belonging to the Parks Home Construction LLC physically located at 1319 Main Street into one lot, lot 1. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the replatting of lots 1 through 3, part of lot 66, 27, and 28 in the AB 483B Metro Survey, being 1.8 acres belonging to the Parks Home Construction LLC, physically located at 1319 Main Street, into one lot, lot 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Several of them. Okay, discussion? Okay. Mr. Yaws, how do you vote?
Yaws votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item 4E, public hearing for request to replat lots 630 through 632 in the Bay subdivision belong to Maryland Ketcherside, physically located at 121 Daisy Circle into one lot, lot 630R. Public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to speak?
I'm here.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to this at this time?
I just want you to combine them. It'll make my life easier.
Okay. All right. Anybody else wish to speak? Public hearing is closed. We'll go to 4F. Discuss and or take action to approve the replatting lots 630 through 632 in the Loon Bay subdivision belonging to Maryland Ketcherside, physically located at 121 Daisy Circle into one lot, lot 630R. Council, is there any, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the replatting lots 630 to 632 in the Loon Bay subdivision belonging to Maryland Ketcherside, physically located at 121 Daisy Circle into one lot, lot 630-R.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing no discussion. Mr. Yaws, how do you vote?
Yaws votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Item 5A, public hearing regarding the submission of an application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for a Texas Community Development Block Grant, including a citizen participation plan, the development of local housing and community development needs, the amount of the Texas CDBG funding available, all eligible Texas CDBG activities, and the use of past Texas CDBG funds. The public hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak? Public hearing is closed. Item 5B, discuss and or take action to consider approving the recommendations of the Selection Review Committee to award by resolution number R 2021-002 Gary R. Traylor and Associates Incorporated as grant writer administrator in conjunction with the submittal of an application for funding through the 2021-2022 Texas Department of Agriculture Texas Community Development Block Grant, Texas CDBG, to provide application preparation and project administration if awarded. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss and or take action for resolution R-2021-002, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, selecting a grant writer administrator in conjunction with the submittal of an application for funding through the Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Community Development Block Grant.
Have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Resolution R 2021-002, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, selecting a grant writer administrator in conjunction with the submittal of an application for funding through the Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Community Development Block Grant. Is there any discussions? And I believe we have Mr. Stacy Chef, with us tonight. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Toward the public hearing, as far as that goes?
Or, well, we're actually in the motion now, but anything you would like to add?
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Just to say that the public hearing itself actually is an opportunity for anyone on the call to be able to weigh in on the city's plans to make an application for this particular grant opportunity. Also, just to discuss any of the funds that have been used in past grant opportunities, as well as those going toward this one. The amount of money that's being applied for, the project that's being considered, anything of that nature, primarily. So that was really my main concern, was if anyone had questions or comments or anything, if I might be able to help address any of that. So that's kind of why I'm here mainly. I think that as far as our contract with the city, it's pretty straightforward. So not much for me to weigh in on that, unless you need me to say anything. So yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Mr. City Manager, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just that in our continuing quest for finding alternative ways to fund some of our projects, we're continually seeking out grant opportunities, and this is just another one of those opportunities. Mr. Schaff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a maximum amount of $3.5 million in this grant opportunity for neighborhood revitalization, drainage improvement projects. I believe the match for the city would be 15% for if we were awarded given successful approval. We solicited opportunities or solicited input and proposals from the public. Traeger and Associates were the only company that applied or responded to this request. So obviously, after going through their proposal, which is, we're using them on a current grant, so we're very happy and satisfied with the support they provide us. So we recommend that they be the company we utilize in pursuing this grant opportunity as well.
Thank you. Council,
Let me, if I could, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. I want to clarify one thing. I just want to make sure I didn't hear that wrong. As far as the amount of money that's being applied for on this, it's $350,000 on this one.
Not 3 point, okay.
Yeah. The previous
I got
one.
those numbers from Mike Howell, and he was at home, so.
Okay, yeah.
I think I remember that being 350,000, not 3.5 million, so.
Yes, sir. That is correct, yeah. And as far as the local match, that is correct on the percentage. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Any further comment or discussion? Mr. Yawls, how do you vote?
Yawls votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
And Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Good job. Item 5C, discuss and take action to adopt Resolution R-2021-003, authorizing the fire chief to submit an application for funding through the Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Grant Division for grant funding. Resolution number R-2021-003, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, authorizing the fire chief to submit an application for funding through the Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Grant Division for grant funding through the State Homeland Security Program as managed by the East Texas Council of Governments. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to discuss and or take action for resolution number R-2021-003, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, authorizing the fire chief to submit an application for funding through the Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Grant for grant funding through the State Homeland Security Program as managed by the East Texas Council of Governments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I was wanting to ask, I'm sorry.
No, please, you go ahead.
I was going to ask, how much are we going to have to provide for matching funds?
Ms. Rankin, this grant does not require any matching funds. This mirrors the previous grant that we applied for, which is $10,000. This is also a $10,000 grant request. And that entire amount is provided by Department of Homeland Security through the East Texas Council of Governments. So there is no match.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, is there any specific allocation that this $10,000 grant would be utilized for?
It's utilized for our ability to purchase more interoperable communication equipment. It gives our fire department the ability to communicate with their peer agencies and help effectively perform their duties. It's basically for radio and communication equipment.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any further questions? Mr. Yawns, how do you vote?
Yawns votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Evans, yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
5D, to discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution R 2021-001 supporting the proposed Legendary Oaks Construction Rehabilitation Development Plan. I believe this was, did I not see an email that this was not being heard tonight?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. We got notification from the persons asking for this proposal. They're going to remove any request for consideration this year. They have other competing projects that scored higher. So in this current grant cycle, they are not going to pursue this matter. So we can basically drop this, table this, drop this from further consideration at this point.
All right. I guess I probably need a motion to table this item.
I don't think if we table, we'll have to bring it back up.
Doesn't have to be brought back up.
It can stay on the table for indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. We have done that in the past. I don't know if we want to do that or not. Or we can just,
Can we just void the agenda item?
that's fine with me. That's what council wants to do. I'm happy with that.
I'm good with that.
All right, we'll move on then. Item 6, council request, discuss and/or take action to conduct an investigation of all financial aspects of the EDC for the year 2020 through January 21, including all bank statements, credit card statements, CDs, and any other financial bookkeeping held in the office of the EDC or the CPA. Ms. Rankin?
I brought this to the council's attention just because in the past we've been negligent of not paying close enough attention to our treasury at the EDC and how monies were spent. And due to the fact we haven't seen a financial that was approved since August, I would just like to see if we could not have our representative for the council meet with the CPA, Teresa Cryer, and to have her do a QuickBooks compilation of all the expenditures of last year to present. And that way we can look at what has been spent and on what. And it'll give us some idea as to how it was approved and not approved, and let us know where we actually stand on all of our accounts. So it's nothing more than we need to see what has been spent since we haven't seen anything in 5 months.
Ms. Rankin, when you first brought this up, you wanted to have an external firm do an audit on this. Is that not what you still want to do?
I've spoken with a few CPAs. I called around to get their input as to what they thought might be best. And due to the fact that the information that we'd like to have is all in QuickBooks and can be run on reports, I feel certain that just spending some time with Teresa to get the reports we need would be adequate.
Okay. And in your request, you had provided a number of questions that you wanted to ask. Did you by chance go by and talk to the executive director about those items?
No, I did not, because I've made inquiries through emails and I've listened to, all of this was taken from the meetings where there were answers and questions. This was taken from their EDC meetings.
Okay.
So I feel certain that I know what I've heard.
Okay. Well, I went by and spent a few minutes and just to clarify some of the things that you've asked about. You asked that the ED, you pointed out that the ED confirmed that the annual audit was not complete. Is that was a concern?
Well, we were told that the audit was not complete because she had to stop due to the problem her husband had with COVID.
The audit wouldn't be complete yet at all.
Correct.
The audit doesn't start until January.
But the end of the year, the budget year, as I understood from her conversations with the board, it was also not completed and she wasn't aware it needed to be done.
The end of the year report?
Yes,
Well, the end of the year report is on the September financials. It does for the month and also for the year. There's not any other end of the year report. If they're asking about the state controllers, if you're asking about the state controllers report, that's not due until April 1st.
No, I'm just saying, since we have no financials to look at and they've been approved and we still haven't received them, I think we need to take some initiative of our own.
But we haven't received those. I would agree with that, but some of that has been board related. Some of that has been because they canceled their meeting in December. And then when we moved all the meetings to being virtual meetings in January, well, they didn't get those to us at that point in time because their meeting was a day after the deadline for getting things to us. I won't go through all of these, but I will send this out to council if they would like to have answers to the questions that you raised, because they're all pretty easily answered.
Well, these were simply items that lent themselves to the fact that I don't think there's anyone but you, David, on this council that truly understands what's been spent this year and why they were spent and how they were spent. And in the past, we've been caught with our blindsided that things were bought, things were spent, and we didn't know about it. And I think on here, the meat market was one of those items.
The meat market, yeah, it certainly was the money that they spent. But I think, I know that the board president was fully aware of what was going on with that. He was asked about changing the attorneys. I think that's what you're bringing up. The $50,000 grant that the previous board awarded, and then the monies that was spent, which was, it was approved by the board to spend attorney fees to regain control of that building, which they did. And they now do practical purpose on that building to sell that. I just guess if we're going to do it, if I understand what you're recommending, I'm not against having the books looked at, but I am against having the treasurer of the EDC. Were you saying that you wanted a representative from the city to go do this?
Yes, because I felt like there's been so much turmoil over the past, let's say, half year of the 6 months. And we've changed treasurers, we've changed ED directors, that it would be good to get someone in there that has a strong understanding of our city workings and our budgets and understands how to look at those accounts and can take a look. And if there's like a 10% discrepancy between it and the budget, then we know we need to take a further look. If there's only a 10% disparity, then there's nothing that we need to have an alarm about. But also we need to make sure things were approved. And I would just like someone from the city, perhaps our treasurer might spend time with the CPA or whoever else you feel is qualified, and just take a second look for the council and report back to us. I don't think there's a one of us on the council, David, that has an understanding.
Well, that's at the fault of the council then, because all you have to do is walk in and ask the questions.
No, we need our reports on a monthly basis, David. You have to admit, we don't get our reports anymore.
And I know that we have had issues with getting reports approved through the board. And I think that we need to take a look at our board and see why they're not approving reports. But I would agree with you that I have no problem with someone going over there. I don't know that a city person, someone from the city, needs to be involved with. The city has always taken a stance of staying away from the inner workings of the EDC and not wanting to be involved. I would be happy to take that on if the council would like. But
David, you're very involved with Gail and on a day-to-day basis. And I would really like a third objective person that doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on the periphery.
Yeah, I mean, you may want that, and that's fine. I just don't know who we would ask. Mr. City Manager, you might want to weigh in. And do you find it appropriate that the city treasurer would want to involve herself with the EDC's financials?
All they have to do is work with the CPA to pull up a report. That's not really being that involved.
I don't think it would be inappropriate for the city treasurer to provide oversight. She has probably more institutional knowledge of the way things operate in the city than anybody on staff. Now, I know that she doesn't and has not regularly been involved in EDC operations. None of us have here. So I understand your position, Mr. Mayor, that we do not engage ourselves with what goes on at the EDC. However, she does have an understanding of what's expected practice-wise. I think what would be really important is a third party, a complete objective. If you want to look at something, it's probably the best way is have somebody that is just objectively going to look at the facts if that's what we're looking for.
And if you run the reports in QuickBook, that's not going to take but 30 minutes at the very most to pull out what the information is. And having someone that understands what they're looking at, it's not going to be that difficult to understand.
If I understood the city manager correctly, he said he was fine with the city treasurer doing that.
I think she could objectively look at and provide some input to say what these numbers mean. I don't think she's in a position, nor should she be in a position, to evaluate what they mean. I think her position should be solely to explain what the itemized columns mean. And I don't think it's appropriate for her to render any opinion as to what they actually mean. Just more the content versus the context. The context is up to somebody else to determine. She can clearly tell you what the content means and what the numbers represent.
Then that would be, that's fine with me if it's okay with you. It's always been the stance to stay away from the city side, so I'm good with that. That's fine with me. I don't think we got a motion on this one yet. Could I have a motion on it, please?
I'd like to make a motion to have a city staff or a third party to work with Teresa Cryer to provide a compilation report for the city council and their review.
Second.
Have a motion and have a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. What would be the compensation? What would be the cost to us for this to execute these reports? I like the idea of getting the records. What's it going to cost us?
I'm guessing at the most $250.
Jeff, would we owe any?
Because it's probably going to take Teresa, she may want to take an hour because we've got several accounts. But I think her cost is around $250 an hour.
Mr. City Manager, would we owe any additional compensation to our city treasurer if she were to be involved in this process as well?
No, I think her role would be minimal. And I think what's really important here is to define the scope. What is she actually going to be doing? I think if she's only going to ensure that all the QuickBook information is downloaded and presented in a readable format, that's fine. But I think we really have to be careful that we don't put her in a position where she exposes herself to any type of opinion. She's not an investigator. I don't want to expose her to anything that may be questionable. I
think since she is familiar, I'm sorry, Jeff. Since she's familiar with our format, then whenever Teresa prints out these reports, she could at least tell Teresa if that's what the council would be expecting. She would understand if it was the right format to compare numbers and budgets.
And I think that's, as long as that scope is defined for her, to just ensure that all the information that you request as a council is collected. And then it will
And
be
that's
up to
all,
the
that's
council
all
then
I'm
to
asking.
evaluate what's collected.
What period of time would be the scope of this review, Ms. Rankin?
I would like it within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
What would be the scope of the
Of the period?
review?
I
Yes.
was thinking all of the last budget season to present. So it would have been from October 2019 to present. Because we didn't get an end of the year for 2019-20, and we're in 21 now. So I'd like one for the last budget year through today.
Any further discussion? Mr. Yawns, how do you vote?
Yawns votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
And Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
6B, discuss and/or take action to determine who should perform the investigation of the EDC's financial operations. I think we just did that with the city treasurer, did we not?
We did. I'll make a motion to ask the city treasurer to perform those activities.
Have a second? Second. And any further discussion? Mr. Yawns?
Yawns votes yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Thank y'all. It is 7:56 p.m. We will convene into executive session to discuss the performance evaluation and duties of the Economic Development Corporation Executive Director under Government Code Section 551.074. Council, be sure and mute your
not put the minutes and financials on because of the timing of our meeting. They have been ready for a long time, as you're all aware, and I am very sad. I also wanted to post them online, and then I realized I couldn't do that until council has approved them as well. So it's just been a nightmare trying to get this taken care of. And the other thing is, we absolutely do have to pay Nikki.
Okay.
It is law that
Excuse
if
me, Ms.
the
Cooper,
city does anything for the EDC,
Ms.
we
Cooper?
have to.
let me interrupt you. This isn't pertaining to this agenda item, so I'm sorry. We'll have to move on with a vote. I understand what you're saying, and we're fine with what we'll be doing.
Okay.
Thank you. So is there any further discussion from council? I have a motion and a second from Mr. Yalls and Ms. Evans. Mr. Yalls, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Mullins?
Mullins, yes.
And Ms. Rankin?
Rankin, yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are hereby adjourned. Thank you all very much for putting up with the Zoom, and hopefully we can get better real soon. Y'all
May
have
I
a-
say something?
Go ahead.
I just want to tell you that
Actually, no, because the meeting's already adjourned, Mr. Cooper, so,
okay, well, I enjoy working here, whatever.
okay. Thank you.
Just one thing, all of you, we're working on getting our audio visual stuff done. They're supposed to come this week, but they had a failure with one of their systems, so maybe by next week we'll get our system upgraded.
That'd be great.
Might make it easier to do some of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, you too. Good night, everybody.
No.
Good night.